I haven't been sober since I was a teenager. Now I am 30 and switch between around 10 different substances or so just to make it through the day. I also exercise daily, do yoga, meditate, and read self-help books, but none of it compares to being in an intoxicated state of any kind. So, how do you sober people make it through life day to day? Story 1. Which ones are those? What you are describing is being dependent on them. Sober people function because they are not dependent on any substances to function. Story 2. Being sober has changed for me at multiple points in my life. It has become easier as I have dealt with underlying anger issues, made peace with the Creator and the universe, learned patience, and come to terms with my ego. If being sober is this hard for you, it probably means you have some internal work to do. Story 3. I'm 32, have 3.5 children, and own a business, so I am extremely busy. The secret is fulfillment, perspective, duty, and sacrifice. I have a duty to give my family the best version of myself, which means being sober. I have a duty to give my clients the best version of myself, which means being sober. I find fulfillment in handling my duties. On days when my duties are overwhelming and a simple fix like substances offers a quick escape, I make an emotional sacrifice and refuse to abandon my duties for instant gratification. Story 4. I can only speak for myself. I just cope with life. It is difficult most of the time, but it is what it is. Story 5. I think of myself as a pretty calm person. I try not to let things affect me deeply. Basically, I ask myself, will this matter next week, next month, or 6 months from now? If not, it probably is not worth worrying about. Story 6. First, you have to identify why you cannot be sober. I am California sober. For me, alcohol always covered up social anxiety and deep-rooted insecurity. After a few drinks, I could do my job better, be more personable, and hold on to the mask I wore more effectively. Quitting alcohol at age 37 brought all those things into my life in a way I had never experienced before. It was not fun. However, it has allowed me to better identify who I am behind the mask. I am still working on it, but I feel better in my body when not drinking. As for cannabis, I try to be mindful of when and why I am consuming it. If I am running away or hiding from something, I try to withhold. It does not always work out, and sometimes I just need a break from life. Outside of that, I will use mushrooms 1 to 2 times a year. Story 7. I am going to be honest here. I like being drunk too because the feeling of being sober and able to listen to your emotions and all the voices in my head is sometimes too much to handle. However, all of the other activities that you mentioned, such as going to the gym, running, and meditation, can help with surviving while being sober. I think others will probably add more. Story 8. You are describing severe drug addiction. Please seek professional help. What helps me is understanding the cost involved and how much money I am saving by not using drugs. Story 9. It's the same way you eat a refrigerator, one bite at a time. I have only recently gone sober after 6 years of daily drinking and 4 years of hard drug use. I take it one day at a time. What worked for me was listening and remembering who I was under the influence, and I did not like that person. For me, I've returned to the things I really enjoyed as a kid, from dinosaurs to woodworking, fishing, and painting. As an adult, I've rekindled many past passions, and that's what I love for now. We live in an information-rich and knowledgeable era. You can learn and pick up any hobby you want. If you want some fun suggestions, send me a direct message. Story 10. By not being addicted to substances we have come to depend on to make it through life. I have no problem with people using substances occasionally, and we are all addicted to things, whether it is drugs or sex or coffee or food or social media. However, if you literally require those substances to make it through the day, that is a result of choices you have made daily over the past 10 or more years. If you are not happy about it, you will need to do the hard work to detox and learn to stop being dependent on them. If you are happy about it, there is no need to change. Story 11. The answer is that it is precisely the use of the substance that alters your ability to exist without it. People who do not use the substance never alter their ability to exist without it by using it in the first place. Story 12. I just walked my dog a lot when I got sober, like miles per day. She loved it, I did a lot of do-it-yourself projects and woodworking as well. I drank heavily every day from age 18 to 26 and did not even know who I was as an adult without alcohol. Story 13. You are choosing intoxication to deal with something. Intoxication is a short-term fix for a long-term problem. You need to identify that problem and come up with a better solution. Intoxication is not a real answer because it costs money. It takes time away from doing other, more nourishing activities. It usually takes a toll on your health. Story 14. The same way people have been doing it since forever. Yes, people have always used substances, but most have not, and obviously it is very possible to live without them. Life has had different demands throughout history, but being addicted does not help anyone. You have within yourself everything you need to live a life. Story 15. You haven't been sober for a whole day since you were a teenager? I did that for a while until I ended up in jail. I do not recommend this path. In general, I seek natural highs from activities like exercise, travel, spending time doing things I enjoy such as playing games and talking with friends. I try new adventurous activities. Sometimes I go to rural areas and drive fast and eat new foods. I make it through the day by being interesting, associating with interesting people, and doing interesting things. I don't really have time for more substances than coffee, cannabis, and a little bit of sugar. I don't think I understand your question. Are you asking how to cope with stress and negativity, or how to feel good without drugs? Or are you saying you are a boring person, so you're bored and need to use drugs to spice things up? Story 16. I can say I was a young man who drank alcohol, smoked tobacco, snorted drugs, and tried practically everything. When I decided to quit it all, life changed, and I realized I did not need any of it. I can have just as much fun and enjoy my life so much better than I thought I did before. Story 17. You have a substance abuse disorder. It is not about being mentally tough. Have you discussed this with your therapist? Story 18. Hey man, I mean this with love. You need serious intervention if you are abusing substances to this degree. You are slowly hurting yourself to the point of irreversible damage. Have you considered discussing inpatient treatment with your counselor to help you get a handle on substance abuse? Is inpatient treatment something you would be open to? Story 19. It was very difficult for me to sober up, but when my wife became pregnant, it was much easier to stay clean. Being sober is healthier, and she has been my inspiration to maintain sobriety. Story 20. Sometimes it is very tough. Then I remember it would be tougher with addiction on top of everything else. Some people are more easily addicted than others. I am lucky enough not to be one of them. Story 21. Make it through life. Sounds like just living would be troublesome. But I guess it is for you, hence the substances. To be honest, I have no concerns, no big issues, and pretty much no negative thoughts. For me, life is easy, so there are no problems in functioning. I want to add that I know I am in a privileged position with healthy children and a partner. Economically, we are comfortable and I enjoy my work a lot. I also live in a highly functional country. Story 22. This is addiction. You have not truly experienced life because you have lived it through a veil of intoxication. You are so emotionally and mentally immature that you cannot imagine life without substances. Break free from their grip and experience the world and the people around you. I spent years believing that substances enhanced my life, only to wake up to the reality that they robbed me of what I desperately desired. Connection, memories, love, meaning, and purpose. I will pray for you. Story 23. This is going to sound ridiculous to you, but try Alcoholics Anonymous. You will find yourself surrounded by people who have figured out how to function without substances and who are willing to share that knowledge with you. Augment that with a sponsor and a good therapist, and you will find that the work gets easier. Not easy, but easier. Story 24. I don't know, man. I feel like everyone has a different balance of chemicals in them, and their personality, mind, and spirit are all different from everyone else's due to both nature and nurture. I say as long as you are happy, genuinely happy, or taking steps toward happiness, then that is all you can ask for. Life is beauty and terror, and we are all trying to figure it out. Story 25. I do it because I need to. Alcohol harmed me during my last relapse, so I had to learn to live without alcohol. It was not easy at first, but it is much better than dying. I was very dependent on alcohol, and it gave me energy whenever I was drinking. Turns out I was just hurting everything around me. Story 26. How are you even able to function while using multiple substances throughout the day? People with good and happy lives do not need escapism. Story 27. I honestly do not know what it would be like to function on substances. I have never used anything other than alcohol, and that only on extremely rare occasions, about 5 to 6 times per year. Maybe you have been using substances for so long that you have forgotten what it was like before them. Story 28. Sober person here, not California sober. What always baffles me is how surprised people are by sober individuals. Alcoholism and drug dependency are so prevalent that being sober seems like a groundbreaking concept. Honestly, and this may sound harsh, you need to build resilience. Choosing to use drugs at the potential cost of your health and finances is hard, but so is being sober and clean. You have to make the conscious decision to live above addictions. No one else can do it for you. Some days will be difficult, and that's okay. But lowering the bar to accepting addiction is not okay. I hope one day you find the willpower and strength to better yourself and heal from whatever demons lead you to your addictions. Direct messages are open if you want to talk. Original poster. Story 29. The people at the Stop Drinking community have a really great group. I've been doing my best to cut back because I've been having horrible anxiety in the morning and it's been affecting my work. The only time I can ever control it is around coworkers because I've seen a few people in my work life get totally drunk and lose their jobs. As far as advice, all I can say is that when I get home, I try my best not to leave the house because I know I'm likely to drink or go buy alcohol. I'm in a very walkable city and I know I can't do this forever. I'm still trying to find a balance. Story 30. The 12-step program is a big part of my life. I am an atheist, by the way. It works well philosophically if you can mentally replace the idea of God with something bigger than yourself. My life is full of sober activities and a community of intimate relationships now. To be honest, being entirely sober was a fear of mine. I wondered how I would meet women and friends. It has not been an issue at all. My life is so much better now. Story 31. Being sober allows me to better sense how I am feeling. Being able to sense how I am feeling allows me to be present. If I am pulled out of the present by my body, mind, emotions, or someone else, sensing my feelings allows me to know how best to nurture myself until I am able to return to the present. Story 32. How do you function is a better question. The only substances I require to function are water, food, and hay fever medication twice per year. Otherwise, I can still function but under the stress of not being able to breathe properly. Story 33. My brother in Christ. 10 different substances? If you struggle to be sober for more than a day, that is probably a sign of some underlying condition. Why can't you be sober? Is it painful to be sober? Now, I am not sober 80% of the time. I am not at work or have responsibilities. But I also acknowledge that I struggle with pretty bad anxiety and depression, so it helps me with that. I am also in therapy and on anti-anxiety medication. If you simply do not want to be sober just because you enjoy being on substances, that is all right, as long as you are able to care for yourself and take care of your responsibilities. But if you are doing it because you cannot stand the thought of being sober, that is probably a sign of something or is just straight addiction. Story 34. I'm going to be brutally honest. I think I tend to be mentally tougher than most people. I look around my life and I am basically the only person I know who is not on medication for anxiety or depression, self-medicating with drugs or alcohol or both. I had a father who was very mentally tough, even when he was going through some really difficult times at the end of his life, and I believe I inherited some of that toughness from him. I do not want anyone to think that this means I lack empathy for those who struggle. Our society needs to do a much better job of supporting people who face challenges, both in material and non-material ways. Story 35. I exercise hard 6 days a week. It makes me feel upbeat and optimistic about the world. I have about 1 beer a month when family comes to visit, and then I feel unwell for the next 24 hours. Story 36. I was kind of like you. What I learned from getting sober is that I had become used to being not sober. Being intoxicated was the normal. Getting used to the new normal, which is sobriety, took a long time. After about 8 months, I was fully accustomed. Recently, I did drink a little alcohol and smoke some cannabis. I did not like the feeling anymore. I felt like I couldn't function at 100%, even the day after. It felt really odd to not like the things I used for many years. To make a long story short, sobriety isn't as bad as it seems. It's actually wonderful. What do I do day to day? Everything I did while not sober: work out, learn to play music, cook, read. Nothing has changed except that I am sober 100% of the time now. Story 37. My weight loss medication prevents alcohol consumption, but the enjoyment of drinking seriously stopped in my mid to late 20s. Once Friday night fun extended into Sunday brain fog, I just could not continue. I suggest you abstain from alcohol for a month, but if you physically cannot, you need to seek professional help. Story 38. You deal with your emotions and face them head on. Every time you mask your emotions with substances, your mask gets weaker. One day you will not be able to keep masking yourself. That will make your life even worse. When that happens, you may look back and think, I chose to ingest these substances when I could have just stood up and faced the music. Seek professional help, and remember you are the driver of your life. You can keep driving down the road of being numb, or you can face the difficult path you are afraid of and start to fix it. Take one day at a time. Story 39. Find the distractions or focus areas that medications would replace. Internally and externally, there is always something. Whether those things work for you is a different story for everyone. Story 40. I used to drink every night and even started hiding it from my wife. I went through detox because I was addicted to tramadol at one point, as it relieved my pain. I have experienced my share of substance abuse. Every substance has a cost you will pay, and it only masks the real problem. Putting those vices down was extremely difficult, but it was the best decision I ever made. I still have rough days, but I no longer need poison to feel better. Story 41. I was sober for a couple of years and hated every moment. I cannot answer your question, but which 10 substances? Caffeine and nicotine do not count. Story 42. Realize I don't need substances to get through the day. Practice impulse control when around alcohol. I started to ask myself why I needed substances to begin with, as I used to be a heavy drinker. The list goes on. Story 43. If you have never been sober, you will not understand. This is why you say no to Peter Pan and stick with it. Story 44. I am not even sure how to answer this. I do not need something special to get me through the day, whether it is drugs, alcohol, mental or physical exercise, or other methods. There is no existential issue for me that I have to find a method of coping with. Story 45. I just got tired of feeling terrible. It helped that I had children as well. I was tired of feeling like a huge letdown to them. Story 46. The classic question. Is life hard because I am always intoxicated? Or am I always intoxicated because my life is hard? My dad is an addict and has been his whole life. He has been better at times, and when he is better, he gets his life together. When his life is together, he finds that the urges calm down more and more and that he needs that feeling less. That said, we all have rough days, and sometimes you just have to feel it. Some of us can become numb to it without becoming dependent, but others are dealt a different hand. Story 47. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, got a sponsor, and worked the program until sobriety felt like a gift instead of a burden. I loved intoxication too, but eventually the cons outweighed the pros, and I had children who needed a sober parent. When I was not sober, I medicated to cope with my problems. Now, because I cannot do that, I have to stick with them until I solve them. My life has gotten better because of that pivot, and it has become a regenerative cycle. Story 48. Coming from alcohol, you function by taking responsibility for your choices and not escaping reality through substances. It is difficult at first, but you get used to it. It is neither hell nor scary. It is being an adult. Story 49. I don't know. I just do it. I don't know what good it does to complain all day. I know for certain that most of my issues and problems are self-made. They might not be easy to fix, or I may have messed up a few things, but it's good to know and acknowledge that I did it. That way I can change them step by step. I wouldn't want to take drugs or drink alcohol all day. That sounds like a chore to me. Story 50. I drink caffeine daily and maybe 3 to 4 alcoholic drinks on the weekend. I can function that way because I have never done it any other way. I eat, sleep, get up, go to work, relax, exercise, and do it all over again 5 days a week until the weekend. I guess you set your mind to it so that it must be done, and you get on with it. It is not always easy, but life seldom is. I doubt I can give you any magic trick that will solve your problem. It seems like you have a lot going on, so take it one step at a time. I think you definitely need professional help to get through it. Story 51. I have been sober every day of my life. It has been a struggle about 1/4 of the time. I am afraid to start using drugs again, as I am not sure I would have the self-control to stop. Story 52. First, I hate the idea of needing something. I am my own worst critic and judge myself harshly. Needing something outside of basic food, water, and nutrition is a weakness that I should develop myself to render unnecessary. Second, most substances make me feel worse afterward than before. That just sucks. The fun of a night drinking is less enjoyable than it used to be, and the hangover is much worse than before. I never really liked cannabis all that much. I was addicted to nicotine in just about any form I could get for a long time in my younger years, and luckily met a woman I loved enough to stop for. That addiction is still there. The desire to buy a pack of cigarettes when I am stressed still hits me, but it has been more than 10 years. The one time I gave in to that feeling, I felt terrible afterward, so I remind myself of the consequences. I can tell you that a lot of it had to do with my sense of purpose. I got married, then had children and goals to give them the best version of me and of life that I can. Deadening myself means taking away from them, and that hits me hard. Unfortunately, nobody can really give you purpose. You have to find yours. I suggest, though, that substances might be masking the senses you need to find your purpose. Story 53. I used to abuse many substances, overeat, and struggle with sex addiction to cope with life in my late 20s. I started exercising regularly and went to therapy. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and a few other conditions. 6 years later, I have been able to stay away from all substances. It is still difficult, though. Although I am functional, I would not exactly use that term to describe myself. I am clean and healthy, but my work and relationships suffer greatly. Story 54. You have to find purpose to be content. Most people just put in time on things they do not care about and as a result just get by. Find a passion and throw yourself into it. Whether it is for work or just play, it does not matter. For me, I love being outdoors. Hiking, biking, paddling, skiing, and so on. Story 55. I was an addict for a long time. I got my life together, and now life is much easier. Drugs are a crutch for weak people. Story 56. Honestly, pretty easily. I have been lucky to be born with brain chemistry that does not make me depressed. And up to this point, despite some down times, I have lived a relatively easy life, all things considered. I do not have bombs being dropped on my head like many others. You started using when you were young. Why? What about your day-to-day life makes it such a necessity outside of the fact that you have rewired your brain to rely on it? Story 57. I haven't been drunk in years and haven't been intoxicated since my early 20s. I am in my late 30s now. I function quite easily. I am able to drive whenever I want, and I save a lot of money by not drinking. I am in full control of my mind and body at all times. I personally do not see any value in spending a lot of money to impair yourself and feel unwell the day after. But that is just my perspective. I can have fun and do anything I want at any time without it. Story 58. Well, to put it bluntly, most of us, as we transition from teenager to adult, learned to cope with life in ways that did not involve substance abuse. I do not mean to sound condescending. That is not my intent. But it is also the truth. We all have an outlet of some sort, be it fitness such as running or going to the gym, reading, woodworking, or music. I have a friend whose stress relief in college was hand-painting miniature figures for tabletop games. Story 59. Almost 5 years sober here. It is so much better on this side. Alcohol and drugs just keep you in a mental prison. Always depressed. Everything feels terrible. People seem unpleasant. The world feels harsh. Life feels meaningless. Once I got clean, things improved significantly. I am even stopping my antidepressants since I no longer need them. I am happier, more relaxed, and things do not bother me as much, which surprised me. I always thought I was an angry person, but in reality, it was mostly the alcohol. If you have to use some coping substance, consider tetrahydrocannabinol. That helped me quit everything else and has made me much calmer. Not saying you should do it, just that it is far better than alcohol, cocaine, methylenedioxymethamphetamine, oxycodone, benzodiazepines, and similar substances. Good luck to you. I know firsthand how difficult life is on drugs. I hope you find your way out of that situation. I wish you the best. Story 60. Not gonna lie, I was addicted to sex. I have been good for 3 years now. I have my days, but I fight through it for myself and my family. You just have to fight the urge and pray to God for help. Find books about what you are going through. Sometimes they provide good tips on how to fight. Story 61. Fostering resilience is accomplished by putting yourself in challenging situations, pushing through, getting used to that feeling, and developing good habits. Story 62. One day at a time. I have not had a drink in about 2.5 years. This is the first time in my adult life I have not been consuming alcohol constantly. I was at the point of basically killing myself because I was drinking so heavily. I thank myself every day for my decision to quit. It is hard to even describe the impact it has had on my mental and physical well-being. I was drowning myself in alcohol because I was actively avoiding things in my life that I did not realize. Once I faced those things, the drinking vanished along with them. Being intoxicated is just a baby blanket that you wrap yourself up in. It is a pacifier, a thumb to suck on. It is self-soothing, but it is not helpful and will keep you stuck mentally. Story 63. You just learn to live with the pain. Grow a bit bitter. Convince yourself that is just life so you can give up and it does not hurt as much. Story 64. I'm with you. Being completely sober is very difficult. In my case, I don't need 10 different drugs, only 3 on a regular basis for the past 30 years. And alcohol is not one of them. The key is moderation. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. All I need is cannabis, amphetamine, and occasionally lysergic acid diethylamide. I can't imagine juggling 10 substances for that long. This is something I only did when I was much younger. But you do you. Story 65. Former alcoholic here. I took a month off from drinking 4 years ago on the advice of a mentor after I had no memory of an important conversation my son had with me. That month was quite difficult and mentally painful, enough so that I took another month, then another, then 6 months, and so on. Eventually, I started finding joy in things I used to miss. Little conversations with my kids, outdoor activities like fishing, reading books, and so on. These are what drive me to stay sober. I do not want to risk going back into a state where I did not even know what I was missing. I was barely functioning before. Story 66. You need a purpose that goes beyond yourself. It can be anything, but it cannot be just about yourself. Story 67. The thing about being sober is that it is the standard you function on, but drinking or drugs, not heavy ones, temporarily make you feel even better. It is like treating yourself and having fun during that buzz or trip. When you have that buzz or trip as your baseline, it eventually becomes dull. Now, nothing will ever make you feel better, except maybe a lethal dose. So do not get addicted, folks. Story 68. To be honest, you probably need to go to a detoxification facility and then be professionally evaluated by a psychiatrist to see if any prescribed medications would improve your daily quality of life. However, this assessment is almost impossible until you have all traces of your current substances out of your system and your brain chemistry stabilizes to a baseline. Hence, a detoxification facility is necessary. I am a therapist by profession and a veteran who used to use alcohol to medicate heavily in my early to mid-20s. It took a lot of self-reflection, combined with diagnoses of some mental health problems that were treated with medication for several years, before I did enough work to slowly wean off them and reach a baseline life where I am technically unmedicated in my early 30s, truly enjoying and living a peaceful life overall now. The only substances I rely on are cannabidiol gummies to assist with sleep and cannabigerol gummies that take the place of my previously prescribed Adderall for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder because I did not like the side effects of that medication. The cannabigerol gummies I found give me the energy and focus of Adderall with literally zero side effects. I can function well without either of these, but they just make things easier. Finding your peace is a different journey for everyone, but relying exclusively on substances to find it will never work, and it will only get harder. I truly hope you find the help you need on your journey and that any of this can assist you in some way. Story 69. There are many things that motivate me to move forward. I enjoy going for a walk in the evening to experience nature or watch events. I like to exercise and eat tasty food. I enjoy having a few beers, getting a good sleep, drinking coffee with some sweets, and having sex. A nice warm shower and swimming are also activities I appreciate. I cycle through all of these so I don't become too dependent on any one thing. Story 70. Have you played video games and shared a laugh with your friends? No amount of alcohol can fill that gap. Story 71. I was sober until age 26. I did not function particularly well. I pushed down and lived with my problems because my loved ones had bigger and more immediate problems. Eventually, I could not take it anymore. I tried therapy, but it did not work. Story 72. I used to drink quite a bit. Being happy, sad, nervous, or bored was a reason for a drink. I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder around age 40. When I started taking medication for that, how often I wanted to drink dropped by about 90%. It turns out it is common for people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder to self-medicate with alcohol. To be clear, I still have a drink from time to time, but I go months without even thinking about it. When I do drink, it is usually at a social gathering and not my idea. Anyway, despite not being completely sober and not knowing you well enough to suggest how applicable this information could be for you, I felt it was important to share. Story 73. I am here wondering how you make it through the day using any of 10 different substances. I find life easier sober, not harder. Story 74. If you need 10 products to handle a day, you are not managing it well. Normal people do not need anything, maybe some caffeine to get through the day. What is actually bothering you so much that you need to hide in intoxication? Story 75. Because the thought of getting blackout drunk or high and subsequently ruining my brain and health makes me very uncomfortable. Story 76. I often wonder how people who are always using substances function, if I am being honest. Going through life with feelings turned down and deadened by substances was not for me. It may take the pain away during bad times, but it dulls good experiences as well, in my opinion. What you are describing sounds more like an addiction than just basic use. Story 77. The most I drink is about 3 to 4 drinks over the weekend, usually cider or beer. This post makes me want to quit drinking even that much. Story 78. Counter question. What about being sober makes it impossible for you to function? I like to drink, but I cannot have my judgment impaired on a daily basis. I do not want hangovers every day, so I drink maybe one night a week. I love to get high, but I do not want to smell, and I notice that I am somewhat lethargic for about 24 hours when I do, so I only smoke on weekends. Nicotine, on the other hand, I am a pretty consistent user, and I get a little irritable when my vape dies. I have quit before and could quit again. It is kind of my only vice. Story 79. I don't know. I just do. I don't let stress get to me and don't feel a need to drink alcohol or use drugs. I just wake up, get my work done, and do whatever I want afterward. I should say I have a drink every once in a while, but it's not a regular thing and it always tastes unpleasant. Story 80. Coffee helps me make it through the day. Low-grade addiction to Reddit. Pets, daily exercise such as treadmill or walking outside. A daily nap, but I am in my 50s and you may not require one. A loving wife and friends I text every day. Story 81. A lot of us do drink alcohol and use drugs occasionally, but moderation is absolutely key. I am about 30 years old as well, and have noticed that not drinking every day makes me feel better physically and mentally. It sounds like you might have some addiction issues, which is something to consider. Story 82. Life isn't making you a target. It's challenging you. Just a mindset. If you view everything as something you can choose to overcome, instead of something setting you back, it not only becomes more tolerable but can become kind of fun. I've lost everything twice, through absolutely no control of my own. The 2008 financial crisis set back my family so far that most, including my father, couldn't recover. And again, when I was flooded in a house I was renting that the owner did not have insurance on. I simply downsized both times, picked a few things I could improve on, and made sure I tried harder than ever before. Life can be tough sometimes. You just have to stand up and face it. Story 83. I am straight edge and function fine. I do not know any better. This is just what life is. Story 84. You are a hardcore addict, and you are addicted to multiple substances. You should not be switching between different substances to get through the day. You need intensive rehabilitation to get clean. I drink alcohol occasionally, only a few glasses at a time. Cannabis is in gummy form, and I take it only at night when insomnia occurs. My biggest addiction is actually caffeine, and I need it to get through the day. What you are describing is severe addiction, and you should consider sober programs to reset yourself, such as rehabilitation and support groups. I would suggest considering drug-assisted therapy to rewire your brain. However, based on your description, I strongly advise against it because I believe someone in your social circle knows how to microdose but is doing it incorrectly. Story 85. I am 6 months sober, and I remember feeling like you. Facing life head-on is actually more enjoyable. Took an adjustment period, but nowadays the only thing I really miss is getting high and watching a movie. The rest is so unwise, I don't even consider going back ever. Story 86. I am sober 6 months a year and a heavy alcoholic the other 6 months. Sober life is honestly so boring. I can go to the gym, drive my truck, eat breakfast, and drive my boat, but it feels like my guard is up. When I am drinking, I am extremely honest, happy, and let my guard down. So yes, I can function sober or intoxicated, but life is less pleasurable sober. I am 32. Story 87. I also had not been sober for any stretch since I was a teenager. I started smoking cannabis at 12, and by 16 I had tried most of the hard drugs one might mention. After a while, your brain heals and relearns how to produce dopamine. You begin to enjoy things in life and have goals again. Completing those goals actually makes you happy. Story 88. None of the mentioned methods can help until you stop intoxicating yourself. There is no point in doing yoga, meditating, or other activities if you are not continuously sober. Story 89. I feel like I lose time when intoxicated, and it takes a while to feel completely normal again. Since there are many things I like to do, I stopped drinking. Story 90. It depends on why you want to sober up or what exactly you are trying to do. For me, I loved the carefree nature of being intoxicated, but more importantly, it brought out major positive social behaviors I would not otherwise have. So, I spent time figuring out what I exactly liked about alcohol and what traits I could adopt in a constructive manner to enhance sober me. Story 91. You need a dopamine detox. Life is not supposed to be crazy all the time. Sometimes it is okay to just relax. Story 92. I function better when sober. The responsible part of my life, including work, does not deserve the pleasure of interacting with my intoxicated personas. Being intoxicated is a recreational treat. I am not willing to sacrifice that treat for the rest of my adult responsibilities. It is for myself and my friends and family only. Story 93. Life is good, sober, and straight. I like my brain to function at a top level. I keep busy and make things. I thought the same way in my 20s. Having children helped. Story 94. Find a distraction so I do not have to think about life, usually by immersing myself in media like video games, movies, and animation. Story 95. Discipline. You have to master yourself. Ask yourself if it is because you like it so much. I do not depend on alcohol to cope or for introspection. Story 96. I don't think most men have ever been reliant on 10 different substances at once. I have no idea how to go about getting off all that except through inpatient treatment. The most I was ever dependent on was alcohol and cigarettes, and I quit that cold turkey, which is not something everyone can do and not something I would suggest in your case, as those withdrawals would likely be severe. Story 97. I prefer not to be in an intoxicated state of mind. I dislike the feeling of not being in control and having an unclear state of mind, so it is extremely easy to stay sober. I am simply not drawn to it, which I guess makes me lucky in that sense. I think you assume everyone enjoys being intoxicated like you do, but that is not the case. I will say I sometimes drink alcohol, but usually only once or twice a year, if at all. I believe it has been 2 to 3 years since the last time I drank. Typically, I only drink on special occasions, and I would normally stay at whoever's place we were drinking at. However, since I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, I do not stay at other people's places because I have to bring the continuous positive airway pressure machine, which is a hassle. Story 98. Believe it or not, I would be at just as big a disadvantage taking all those drugs. Your brain gets used to the status quo. Please keep up your rehabilitation efforts and do not be afraid that you are too far gone to get help. Story 99. I just have to stay sober today. Tomorrow can be a different story, but as long as it is today, I am not going to drink. 11 months sober. Story 100. Honestly, you need to get some help. If you need medication to make it through the day, then you have serious issues and should talk with a therapist immediately. As for your question, I find a lot of joy in things I encounter daily. My wife and sons, friends, brothers, nature, and music. It is not that hard to get through the day if you pay attention to what is around you. Story 101. Through pure anguish and determination. Also intimacy. Lots of intimacy. Essentially, choose a less detrimental vice. Story 102. Brother, I think you might have some serious issues and may want to consider seeking inpatient care or rehabilitation. Tell your doctor or therapist that you want help. Story 103. I am not sober, but I cut out alcohol a little while back. The return on investment is simply awful, and it is a harmful substance. I drank multiple drinks probably every night for 2 decades. Eventually, I realized I do not need alcohol, and it was just making my life a little worse and not doing my body any favors. For whatever reason, I have always been interested in mind-altering substances to help regulate or cope emotionally or just for fun, or to fill a void. At this point in my life, I have moved toward moderation and gentler options, and I am aspiring to not use anything. Therapy is part of that, but the other part is just me, time, and trying to work through it. Story 104. I quit marijuana 3 months ago after smoking most of my life. I cannot believe what I have been missing. Everything just works. Story 105. Make it through life. What do you mean by that? Life just goes by while you do stuff. Right now, my routine is, I wake up, go to work, come back home, make something to eat while browsing Reddit, take a nap, do some housework, play some video games, annoy my wife for a bit, make dinner, eat dinner while watching some series, take a cold shower because it is already 40 degrees Celsius in June and I want to rip my skin off, watch silly content on my phone for a bit, and then go to bed. It is not the most exciting life, but it is mine and I like it. Story 106. I smoke on weekends, but during the week my goals keep me sober. I have fallen into weed and alcohol binges for a week or two, but at the end of the day, I have loved ones that I have to take care of. I am married now to a wonderful woman, and I am blessed to have her. Between taking care of my mother, nephew, and wife, I have to be sober to run my business and make a living. That is what keeps me motivated. I still want to smoke every night, and admittedly, I probably would if I were not on probation. Other hard drugs have never interested me, even though I was around friends and adults who did and currently do use hard drugs. If I'm having a rough day, I go out on the porch, smoke a black and mild cigar with some coffee, and just relax for about 30 minutes. I hope you can move toward being more sober. Every life is valuable, and as men, there is no greater shame than to shy away from life's challenges. Story 107. Only a person who has experienced addiction will understand this. I remember at one point in my life, I was using drugs to feel sober. If I did not have them, I would be in serious trouble. Story 108. How do you deal with not being addicted to shooting space heroin up your butt? Oh, you have never tried? That is what it is like for me. My normal is never having been addicted to anything except cigarettes. I have always functioned this way. Story 109. I would suggest attending some self-management and recovery training meetings if you are interested in recovery. Self-management and recovery training has helped me rediscover life after over 20 years of alcohol abuse. I like self-management and recovery training because it is not dogmatic like some other programs, and it does not just focus on quitting, it emphasizes learning to fully live after recovery. To me, that is what it sounds like you are asking for. A major part of recovery for me has been learning to sit in discomfort. Sometimes life is hard, and the knee-jerk reaction to immediately numb out is detrimental to one's growth in the long run. Life without alcohol has given me more energy and drive to do the things I actually enjoy and to be fully present in my own life. Feel free to reach out either here or via direct message if you have any questions. Story 110. I never started. I never developed a taste for alcohol growing up. I tried it by accident when my father left a cup of beer on the bar, and I mistook it for soda. I hated the taste since that was a betrayal of my expectation. Since then, I have never liked drinking alcohol, and it has never been an issue during outings with friends or coworkers. I get my ginger ale and socialize like normal. I am no stranger to stress. I feel that I had to grow up really early to be there for my mother. I guess I learned to cope and deal because I always had the pressure of responsibility to be present and sharp. So, I never really explored any substances until I was well into adulthood. I handle stress about the same as I used to. I take time for myself, play video games, play with my dogs, spend a lot of time with my wife, and spend time with friends and family. I think it is also important to spend quiet time with yourself where you deliberately do nothing. Not like, oh, I have nothing to do today, so I'll just stay home because I'm not busy. But to make the deliberate decision of doing nothing by your own choice, and then see what that means for you. Story 111. I am nearing 40 and I have essentially stopped drinking in the past year. I do smoke marijuana often, but I also work out a lot. When I drink, my body tells me it does not like it. Life is much better sober, at least without alcohol. You remember everything, it is cheaper, you feel better the next day, and your brain does not lose gray matter. Consuming more than 2 alcoholic drinks per week diminishes your brain's gray matter. Story 112. Being sober is easy for me. I do not know why. I used to be a high-functioning alcoholic, but over time I just stopped. I was traveling the world and found joy in nature, food, other cultures, and other people. Now consuming alcohol just feels like a waste of time to me. Story 113. Firm foundation. Talk about what needs talking about. Contentment and satisfaction by grasping onto things which last instead of things which temporarily fill the hole in your heart. When they fade, they reveal the problem even more because you can feel the gap more than ever. Being intoxicated does not appeal to me. I can have fun without any recreational drug use. If it is something to balance hormonal dispositions like antidepressants or similar medication, definitely take those as long as needed. But weed, alcohol, or even harder substances. No, there is no gain, only temporarily fleeing from the real problems. Story 114. I just live my life. I might stress eat at certain times, but that is about it. I guess I just deal with life. It is not usually that difficult. Even when it gets difficult, I push through it. Story 115. I am a functioning human being who owns a business and is also a part-time professional consultant by choice. I am in my mid-50s. I have health issues for which I am prescribed medication, some of which have adverse side effects. I still take them. However, I also choose to self-medicate with a wide range of non-medicinal substances that, over the years, I have found to be beneficial to my overall mental well-being. I work 6.5 days a week and probably about 180 hours or so. I have stopped counting. I use stimulants and psychedelics as I see fit for my headspace, when and how I want. I am a happily married grandfather with healthy relationships. I work hard and I play hard and get on with life as needed. In my opinion, if you can get on with life and what you do does not impact anyone, including yourself, negatively, do what makes you happy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.